This is Modern Persian Food,
a culinary podcast for today's food enthusiast.
We talk about classic Persian flavors,
modern recipes,
and embracing culture and identity through food.
I'm Bita.
And I'm also Bita.
Welcome to our show. Hello, friends. Today we're on episode 171, and we're going to cover a topic that has become of greater and greater interest to myself, I think also to my partner and co-host here, Bita. Hi, Bita June.
Hi there.
And hopefully to all of you. It is the Persian Festival of Autumn, Mehregan. Last year, we did do a Mehregan episode, and this year, we hope to dig even deeper and kind of embrace it with more inspiration to enlighten and enrich and inspire you to also incorporate it into your fall festivities. So we love these cultural spotlight episodes where we can take a really old Zoroastrian tradition and then find creative ways to weave it in to our modern lives. So let's just get into it. In simple words, Mehregan is a celebration of love, friendship, and a good bounty or harvest. I've been especially in the mood this year, Bita June. When we came up from Southern California up to spend time with our family in NorCal, closer to you, the weather just quickly changed. It's cold. I'm wearing a sweater today. I've been so excited. I took out all my fall decorations, and I think we'll be hosting Thanksgiving again this year. So I'm especially living, breathing, and eating Mehregan and the fall season. How are you feeling this season?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I can see that, Bita June. I can see that you've really embraced Mehregan this year. Mehregan, it's such a special time. You know, the last few years, we've been working together on this podcast and have just been so enamored with the idea of spreading not just Persian culture, but how we take Persian culture and put it into our lives and continue those traditions and share it with our friends, with our families, and really digging deeper within ourselves to celebrate these occasions. So I was looking back to try to be, when did we start talking about Mehregan? So we started talking about it a few years ago. And I remember at that time I had heard about Mehregan, but again, I was born here in San Francisco. I have Persian parents, but I didn't grow up in Iran. So some of these holidays that we've kind of really found in our lives over the last few years as we've been talking about Persian culture has been really incredible. And so Mehregan was when we started talking about it. I had heard about it, and then I saw a children's book on it that we eventually used as a cover image for one of our episodes. I started digging into it, and it was so interesting that this holiday, again, marking the changing of the seasons, was being celebrated. So we, started putting out a Sofreh Mehregan, and just year by year been embracing it a little bit more and learning more and more about it as this cultural event that goes from the warm months of summer, changing into fall, embracing the harvest of the land, celebrating friendship. And it's been great. So I love how it's been such a part of your life this year and that you're embracing all of that. And definitely with the changing of the weather, it feels like, okay, we're ready for the next season to come and get cozy with a big warm cup of whatever your favorite drink is and start looking at the changing of the colors of the leaves and really embracing the next season.
Yeah, I think in the old Zoroastrian times, and I'm not going to go into the super nitty-gritty history, but what I'm learning is that Mehregan, as you said, not a ton of people know about it, and we've been learning more about it each and every year as we do this podcast and as we set up for it and celebrate it ultimately. But that it is a huge thing in Iran and in our culture, second only to Nowruz, which is the celebration of the Persian New Year. So this holiday used to divide the year. Basically, there was Nowruz and there was Mehregan. And so it just makes sense in the old culture after harvesting and growing, that this is the time to now share and gift and feast on the bounty and give gratitude. So I think, like, honestly, like, I can feel it in my bones. And I came up here and I've been picking the fruit off of the trees, the late summer harvest, and making big baskets and sharing it and cooking with it. And, it just makes perfect sense. The red fruit, the apples, the baking and the cooking. And I'm just really excited to do it more and more. Last year, we participated in a community event in Orange County, and you were kind enough to fly down and spend time away from your family to spread some awareness around this through our community. And we hosted a chef's table. We had wanted to set up a Mehregan table there. However, there was a very elaborate and ornately beautiful setup already assigned and done spectacularly. That was a bigger event. This year, we're going to get together and do a smaller event. And we do get to set up a Mehregan table. So I'm really excited about that, even if it's a smaller scale, but it's within our own community up here in NorCal. And I think we should just get after the glow of the season and talk about some ideas, what we're doing, and how you might also set up a special Sofreh table.
Yeah. So, I think it's great. I think we should definitely encourage people. I think everyone who's listening, do it. Set up a Sofreh, try out a new Persian recipe, embrace the changing of the season. We're going to be doing it. Come along with us. Share with us your pictures of your foods, of your Sofreh. And even it doesn't have to be a big ornate thing. Bita was just talking about this Sofreh Mehregan that we saw in Orange County. That was huge. It was like 8 by 10 feet. It was huge. But the ones that I make in my house, they're like on a tray. It's like a 2-foot little thing, like an altar, like setting the intention for, putting down this Sofreh and really embracing this time and giving love to the earth so that earth can give love back to you and friendship and love. It's all about what this holiday is about.
By the way, I love your tray Sofrehs. I think they look beautiful. I think they're so practical. They photograph really well.
Thank you.
Yeah, the one in Orange County last year, it literally had princesses, because that's part of it. We didn't go super in the details of the history, but this is named after Mithra, and she is kind of a goddess of light and love. And that's part of the meaning of this day is friendship, as you said, light and love. And they were princesses, like statues of these princesses. And I mean, I don't think you could have gone more elaborate. Sunflowers, massive wheat, and, gold things. And so we're going to do a really humble version in a community picnic, which I think is kind of actually thematic because, a harvest to me with the wheat and the grains totally works outside. And so I'm excited to do a picnic version with you.
Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to that too. And thank you for your kind words about my tray Sofreh. These changing of the holidays and these seasonal celebrations that we have in Persian culture, a lot of them have a Sofreh or a setting associated with it. So we're going to talk about the Sofreh for Mehregan today, for Yalda, which is on the winter solstice coming up. And sneak peek, we have a really special episode planned for you guys for Yalda this year. We do a little Sofreh setting. And then Nowruz, the beginning of the new year, and on the first day of spring has a little Sofreh as well. So yeah, any size, any shape, whatever little bowls you want to set out, however you want to do it, every Sofreh will be different and yours will be unique and just like you.
In another effort to encourage you to set it up, it really lends itself into Thanksgiving.
Exactly.
A lot of the things. I mean, I'm going to leave my crochet pumpkins out. I'm going to leave my sunflowers around and the colors, and many of the things go with Thanksgiving. So you can kind of do both. It's a little complicated exactly when it is. It has to do with the Persian calendar, and it's a name day thing, but essentially it falls typically right around the first week of October after the changing of the season into fall. So it does lend itself into the Western fall holidays.
Perfect. Yeah. And thematically aligning with Thanksgiving, being thankful, that all plays a role in this holiday. So let's get into it. Shall we talk about the sofreh?
Let's do it.
Okay. When we're setting up the sofreh, the first part of setting it up is getting a place setting, the actual sofreh itself, what you're laying it down on. You could put it on a table, you could put it on the ground, but typically you'll pick a base, really, is what it is. So the color purple is huge for Mehregan. Purple and orange and these really beautiful autumn colors. So start out with a piece of fabric or a piece of terme. Terme is a kind of an embroidered antique type of fabric that they would use more traditionally before. Now there's newer versions of it, but the original terme is woven and embroidered fabric that it would be passed on from generation to generation, staying within the family. So pick a piece of fabric that you like or a tray or whatever as your base and start with that as your primary thing. Next, what I love to do is get my ayna, a mirror, some sort of, it could be a small mirror, it could be a big mirror. It will be identifying self-reflection. And it's just such an anchor to the table that always I'll get a mirror and also candelabra or candles to have the light on the table.
And what you have listed so far, if I may just interrupt and chime in, it really is similar to Nowruz and Yalda. There are commonalities. So in my little cupboard where I store my holiday things, my things for Nowruz, a lot of them overlap with some of these other seasonal holidays and so it's easy.
Yeah, that's right. The base of the sofreh is, you're right, the same across the different occasions. And also one other sofreh that we didn't mention yet, Sofreh Aqd. When you get married, you have a place setting in front of you too. The bride and groom sitting next to each other at the foot of the Sofreh Aqd, where it has all of these things. That color, not necessarily purple, but just moving on some of the other things. There's fruit. For Mehregan, grapes are huge. Grapes and apples and persimmons are really beautiful. Other fruits like quince and dates, those are all kind of featured at the sofreh. Another thing are ajeel. Ajeel is Persian type of trail mix or some other nuts that are in the shell. So nuts definitely play a role in all of the different sofreh as well. Pistachios, almonds, walnuts in the shell. Those are all examples of the different nuts that you can have.
I wonder, it's kind of like with some of these other holidays like Christmas, you wonder where do these symbols of the holiday come from? And I wonder if sunflower kind of came from how in the stories of Mehregan, some say that originally people thought it was the beginning of the sun and light.
Exactly.
And so sunflowers have now kind of become a symbol of this day. I also want to talk about the mood of colors, which might be getting a little woo-woo, but I really believe that colors give out moods and feelings. And yellow it's just a really bright and happy and hopeful color. And so I think with the sunflower, it also represents that. And so I am thinking that this spread is yellow with the sunflowers and purple with the cloth or the sofreh, and that those are complementary colors. When I think of Christmas and the red and the green, I'm starting to now say that this holiday in my mind is kind of yellow or orange with the purple.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and really beautiful. And then I think that there's also in history some gift giving and some coins on the table. And so if you go back and read stories of Mehregans of long ago, there's some stories that 20,000 horses were gifted to the king. The gifts were huge and elaborate. But now, the gifts can be anything. The gifts can be fruits from your harvest. It can be charity, and donating to those less fortunate. And so the coins to me represent that spirit of giving on the table.
Exactly. And then to your point about the king too, I believe that the king would give away a lot of his wealth and his assets on Mehregan to his people. That's a special symbolic measure to keep coins on the table. We also have espand, which is a wild rue that is burned and has such a nostalgic aroma to it. It's really beautiful for good luck, good energy, and to keep evilness away. So that's definitely featured on the Sofreh as well. And a book, either like a holy book or a book of poetry. We typically find these on Sofreh. So a religious book or like a Hafez or a Rumi are great to keep on the table. And of course, it wouldn't be complete without some sweets or some little cookies that you can enjoy together as you gather around the Sofreh and celebrate the occasion.
Yeah, good job. I wanted to just highlight also that the candles and the representation of fire might also go back to the sun. And there are some superstitions with some of these things that I've read about. For example, that there's coal that used to be put around the eyes.
Like eyeliner.
Yeah, like eyeliner. And it was to have a good omen. And there's sometimes seeds on the table, and the seeds would be thrown over the shoulder for good luck. So like these little superstitious things. Gifts and flowers is a symbol of giving and friendship. And Shabbat.
Mm-hmm. Tell us about Shabbat.
So Shabbat, we had an episode in the summer, is a drink. There are different versions of Shabbat. And we're going to hope to offer samples of Shabbat on our Sofreh Mehregan coming up in the community event. The one that we talked about was Sakanjabin over the summer, but there are various other types.
Shabbat is like a refreshing drink that you have. It's usually made with some sort of concentrate and then mixed with either flat water or sparkling water over ice. And typically it's served in these long, pretty glasses and with a little spoon in it that you can kind of mix it. You can also incorporate fresh fruit in there, like grated cucumber, or sometimes I've seen it with like different types of melon. It's typically sweet, and you can buy syrups. It's essentially like a syrup that you mix, and you can get those from a Persian market, or even you can substitute with a tablespoon of jam. So if you have jam, you can also, like, if push comes to shove and you're loving to make Shabbat and you don't have the syrup, you can use a little bit of the jam mixed in into a glass with that. That's one way to do it. A lot of times they have those little seeds in them, basil seeds that they'll use for the Shabbat, tukhme sharbati. But yeah, definitely try some if you like to make some. Those are super delicious and refreshing.
And natural. You know, a lot of them are natural. You can make it with a cherry syrup. You can make it with pomegranate juice or pomegranate molasses. And the one we talked about so much was the one with vinegar, sugar, or honey, and a ton of mint. So we haven't quite settled on which ones we're going to serve. Maybe all of them if we're ambitious.
Yeah, that sounds good. For everyone who's listening, if you want to try a Shabbat, if you want to try a Persian recipe, you can incorporate some of the items we talked about that fit on the Sofreh into your recipe. If you want to try to make a fesanjun with some walnuts, or just try something new or different, definitely we encourage you to use this time to do that.
Yeah, and so if you want to feast after your Mehregan gathering, if you take it that far, dried fruit and nuts. So the fesanjun suggestion was perfect because, you know, it's dried fruit and nuts theme. Another one, sometimes there's raisins in the fruit and nut mix. You could make an adas polo, any kind of a soup that would be perfect for the fall season. So let us know if you do it. We want to hear about it.
Yeah, awesome. Before we wrap up the show, let's talk about a little bit about some of the foods that we've been eating and cooking and things like that. What's going on in your kitchen lately?
I've been cooking a lot. We've had family time. I have been making soup. In fact, I put my Instant Pot into overdrive and had to do deep clean because I was getting that alert that it just beeps.
Oh, no.
It's like the C6L alert or something. If you have an Instant Pot, you'll know what I mean. It's the second time I've gotten it. But I make this Moroccan stew, which is really easy. I love to make it this time of year. It's an oven hug Instant Pot recipe, but I love it to have just for lunch. So I made that soup a couple of times. I've been making roasted vegetables, real simple. I love doing one that my mom used to make growing up. It's just simply carrot, potato, onion chopped up with like salt and pepper and garlic and olive oil. And you know what I love about roast vegetables? You can put it in anything. You can put some in your salad, you can put some in your soup, and it just adds that fall essence and flavor. And I've been cooking a lot of dog food. So I'm obsessed with my dogs, and I do cook for my dogs. And so I make a dog food with meat, sweet potato, rice, and eggs. And it's a great formula that works for them. And I'm sorry if it's rubbing those who are just trying to get by and feed their young children. I remember what that was like. And I know I sound ridiculous that I cook for my dogs, but I'm in the place of life where I can do that. But there's some funny stories around that because there's a delicious smell that comes from cooking dog food. And I do it so often now that my husband comes home and he has to ask when he walks in and smells the food aroma, is that human food?
Oh my God. Well, more power to you. Good for you. I mean, when you can have the option to make it from scratch and make it yourself, like, why wouldn't you? That's awesome. Hopefully you inspire people to do that too. That maybe is a new branch on your oven hug page. Cooking for Buddy.
Yeah, I don't think I'm alone in my obsession with my dogs.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I do cook dog food. So what about you? I know last time we touched base, you were experimenting with some different recipes having to do with some food restrictions. Give us an update.
Yeah, so I've been having this snack that I make, and in the spirit of Mehregan, it works well too because it's with grapes, red grapes. I love like red purple grapes. I love the like snap that they have to it. So a little like side thing that I make that I could have for breakfast. I could really have it any time of day, but it's really nice late at night when I'm looking for something indulgent to eat. I'm trying to cut some inflammation. So I have like very specific things that I can and can't eat. So what I've been doing is I'll take red grapes, like a little bowl of it, and then I'll mix almond butter, like a big tablespoon of almond butter and about equal part of full fat yogurt. The two of those I'll mix together and add in the grapes. And this 3-ingredient little dish is so delicious. It definitely satisfies all my sweet tooth cravings, and it's like healthy, and I love it. So I was making that the other night and I was like, oh, I should tell Bita June about this deliciousness, and it's so in line with Mehregan.
That's Coach Bita approved. You've got protein, you have nut, fruit fiber, and vitamins. That's super healthy. Can I ask you a question? How do you get, because if I wanted to make that, that sounds really good. And I'm ready for a snack. How do you get the almond butter or whatever nut butter you're using to blend with the yogurt?
I just put both into the bowl and then I mix it.
Oh, okay. Your nut butter must be easier to blend and a bit runnier than the ones I have.
Yeah, I stir it a bunch when I first get it. I just get the organic brand from Costco. So I'm a big fan of that. I've been going through that pretty quickly these days. But yeah, it mixes pretty easily. I guess if it's super thick, you could probably put like a drop of water in or something in it to just make it a little bit easier to mix once it's in the bowl.
Yeah, sometimes when I'm making more naughty treats with a nut butter, it's usually with a chocolate or something, I will warm it. If I warm the nut butter, it will sometimes get smoother. So it doesn't sound like you need to.
Yeah, no, I don't need to do that. So I've been doing that a lot. And I've been really loving, I love lamb shank. Making that, I've been making that a few times recently. And I'm actually going to be making it this afternoon too. I'm going to make a big batch of it, share some with one of my friends and her family. And everyone's super excited around here for that for dinner tonight. It's come up already a few times.
How do you cook your lamb shank?
I actually make mine 100% in the oven. It's a super easy recipe. I basically sear the outside of the lamb shanks first, and I do that all in the oven. I start off with a high heat. It's kind of how I cook my turkey for Thanksgiving. I go high heat at the beginning and it browns it. I'm talking about like 500 degrees in there for like 20 minutes. They kind of brown on the outside. And then what I do is I add to the tray, I add a ton of onions, salt, pepper, turmeric. I love to putting a tiny bit of cinnamon in there. And then I'll add saffron a little bit later after it's been cooking. And I cover it tight and I cook it for like 3 hours.
I'm so hungry, my mouth hurts.
Oh my God, your mouth.
That sounds so good.
I'm going to do that tonight too. And I'm going to make some rice and I'm going to make some cauliflower rice too. And I'm going to play around with that. So I'm going to actually try it tonight in the rice cooker. So I'll keep you posted how that goes. Cauliflower rice in the rice cooker. Crossing my fingers that works and gets a nice tahdig. That'll be great.
Friends, this has been so much fun. I'm hungry. I need to go put something in my mouth. And in the meantime, we want to get you excited what we have upcoming. We're going to be talking about American Thanksgiving and Persian pies in our next episode. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us. If you have a friend, a cousin, a neighbor who would be interested in learning about Mehregan or any of the topics that we talked about today, please go ahead and forward this along to them. That is the best way for us to grow, is for you to share this podcast with your friends. We appreciate you. Thank you for being a listener. And until next month, we will be hopefully eating fun things, celebrating Mehregan and the changing of the season.
Until next time, bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Modern Persian Food Podcast with Bita and Beata. Thanks for spending time with us. If you've enjoyed what you heard today, consider telling a friend or giving us a good rating. You can subscribe to our show for free on your favorite podcasting app or find us online at modernpersianfood.com or on Instagram for the recipes and information we talked about today. We'd love to hear your thoughts and see you next time.